Welcome to the NonFunGerbils podcast, Una. And we don't have George or Rudmus here today. So we thought, what could be more interesting than bringing back our last guest to interview the next guest? And maybe that would be a very interesting thing to go forward. So welcome, Hueviews, back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes, and welcome, Una.
Oh, yes. Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. Can't wait to dive deeper.
So, Una, you are a fictional character. Is that correct?
Usually I let people come to that on their own, but yes, I am a fictional character. Or Una is this performance art piece I have created with an exploration of identity. And obviously the identity that I'm in is female, is white, it has this accent. So I'm playing with all of these notions of identity very intentionally, yes.
Okay, great. So when we refer to the artist behind Una, do we refer to that person as the artist behind Una? Or do we refer to her as you? Or should we give her a random name that we can just refer to her as? Something like God, for example.
Something like God. Wow, really humble.
We're going there.
We're just going with one name only. I only go by one name. Call me Una. Call me God. Yes, that's something everyone should know. Una's very humble and very serious. Those are two fundamental tenets. And to answer your question, I'm not really sure. I think for now, let's leave that as a bit of a mystery, and I'll kind of make those distinctions. There's something to the notion of leaving a bit to be kind of explored. And I fundamentally believe that you can never separate the artist from the art. It's just, especially for me, using my own body, using my own life experience, that there's no degree of separation that you could possibly make. So the artist behind Una is as much Una as Una is as much my baby, if that makes sense. They're kind of these two different mirrors that I play with. So play it by ear. Does that work?
Okay.
Or just God, whatever you want.
Does Una actually stand for anything, or is it just is it a name?
So little spoilers for the NonFunGerbils podcasters, for anyone who listens well. Una is a Gaelic translation of my given name at birth. Oh. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
That's really, really cool.
It also means, it means the little lamb. Oh. So Una's just a sweet little lamb up for slaughter. Oh.
It was so sweet, and then it wasn't.
I know. And then also it just plays so nicely into this notion of the universe. So I consider all of the art that I'm making, in this strange universe, which has many different locations and many different areas of interest.
I love a pun. The universe. I haven't heard that one before. Very good.
I know. I've been getting really punny these days, and I can't stop. It's just there's something so jovial about being so dumb.
I love it.
It's like back to the roots of comedy and art.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about where the concept of Una came from, and what's the purpose of Una, and then we can maybe explore the background of your art. I don't know whether that's the Una's art or whether that's God's art or the we that is.
The little lamb.
Yeah, the little lamb. Sure. I mean, I'd love to tell about Una. I just had Una's third birthday on November 1st in New York City, which was quite fun because basically Una was born on November 1st, 2021. And I'd basically been looking kind of at this ecosystem for a while. I personally had been holding crypto since 2016, so I was very familiar with the ecosystem, and then watched kind of this emergent art scene start to take form. And I really liked that it was renegade. I really liked that it didn't have rules. I really liked that it was kind of very peer-to-peer. And it seemed to operate super independently of the kind of very hierarchical and very rule-oriented, trad art world, to use that phrase. But then I also saw that it was full of fucking bros who didn't know dit from dat, who were blatantly misogynist, the very first, this is so funny. Okay, the very first day that Una was born, I made my very first friend, who I'm still friends with now, Clay Devlin, wonderful artist. Highly suggest everyone looks up his work. And he was like, oh, I'm going to this panel. Do you want to come with me? And mind you, I had snuck into NFT NYC. I got rugged out of a ticket. So I just walked straight up to the door and I said, "Excuse me, I'm performing." And they said, "Well, yes, miss." And then they just let me right in. And so I just did that for like the first, I don't know, couple of years of Una. I just like gate crashed basically everything, which is another story. But anyway, I go in, I'm at NFT NYC. It's the very first day. I meet this friend Clay, and he's like, "Hey, let's go listen to this panel." And I won't say any names, Rug Radio, but I'm not saying any names, Rug Radio for sure. And I went, and there were 4 dudes sat on stage with their legs just wildly spread, making dick jokes, talking about monkeys and how they just become millionaires. And I was looking at it like, I must be dumbfounded because this technology is so unbelievably amazing. And how is it falling into these hands first? And not that I'm shitting on Rug Radio or anyone associated with Rug Radio. I am. But there was a certain energy of, mate, you cannot be here espousing this new technology from such a posture with your physical body that's so like just dick oriented. And so then I took the mic and I was like, "Excuse me, I have a question. Where's the pussy?" And it just brought this entire room of people to an absolute standstill. And everyone looked at me and I was like, "Yes, you heard me correctly. I'm asking that question. I'm in a room of this and this." And so that was kind of my introduction to Una. The first kind of like, I definitely, I'm recognizing now that I let the character match the momentum of the bull run for that moment, right? And so everything that was happening in that moment was, hey, you have to be loud, you have to be brash, you have to be quick, you have to talk about it, and you have to say it. So basically, since then, Una's gone on to do a whole bunch of things, which, you know, in a really fancy way, I could say advocate for like greater gender parity or advocate for greater, you know, pay for female artists. Or blatantly, I could just say, yeah, I fuck shit up and I let people know. And I'm not afraid to kind of keep pushing what I feel is a true ethos of a crypto artist.
That's so amazing. Have you always been like that as a person, where you just like walk in and kind of can like command a room? Like, because that is so not how I am. So I'm just curious. Is like that's always been like your personality?
Kind of.
It seems like, because the first time it sounds like you did it like with no covering. I'm guessing, like when you walked in.
No. I always had.
Oh, you
I always
did?
had a mask.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Nice.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd always had a mask because at the time, right, there was this big kind of notion of, and this is before where we are now, because where we are now, things are becoming much more kind of like people are leaning way more into centralization, people are leaning way more into KYC, and we're seeing the trade-offs that has. But at the time, it was this notion of like, you really can be completely anon and everything is peer-to-peer. So my thinking was, why don't I take these kind of tenets that we have online and just embody them offline and see how that translation works? So, you know, everyone has these PFPs that they hide behind online. Great. Well, I will use my PFP offline and I will see what that kind of engenders. And it's the same idea that your reputation is at stake. And in this new kind of ecosystem that we're collaboratively building, I wanted to show that you could be you could be anon in real life, and you could still be held accountable, and your reputation could still be kind of that metric of kind of like social legitimacy. I've also just realized I'm only missing one nail.
The perfect nail to miss. The perfect one to miss. Anytime I like want to color
like
my nails, one extra color. Since the mask has been talked about now, do you, and I might be jumping ahead, sorry, Luke, do you, I think I saw before that you were making your masks. Do you still make them? Do you pick them up? Like, do you just pick out fabric, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a combination. This one that I'm wearing actually is made by a mother-daughter pair in Geneva, and that's kind of a weird angle, so I won't do that. But it's really cool. You can see that it has like a nose bridge, and it's got like some nice lining on the side. So they tried to make this one really professional, and I'm going to try and wear this one to my absolute bits.
Nice.
But everyone before that, I used to make them, and
that's so
the hilarious thing is, unlike you, Hueviews, I am fucking shit at craft. I'm really bad. I cannot cut in a straight line. I cannot draw in a straight line. I cannot sew for the life of me. So there were multiple occasions where I would make these Una glasses and I'd leave it to the very last minute because sometimes I do that. And I'd Gorilla Glue like frizz all on the bottom. And then the very next day I would wear them, but I would get high for the first like 20 minutes just from breathing in fucking glue.
Like it's the glue, okay. I swear. Oh, that is hilarious.
Well, it's
yeah, I like to make them. And honestly, like with everything, I kind of have this motto that I got from my mum, but it's like, if you want to have something, just your first hand should be you, right? So like, I wanted to know like how to make these myself. Same when I would do every kind of like artistic process. It's like, I want to know how to do it myself so I can get in there and have a rudimentary kind of understanding. And then I go, cool, let me pass the baton to professionals.
Like, I know how to do it, but great. Let's move on.
Like I've met the basic sentence. Now I'm going to give it to people that have the thesis. Thank you.
Yeah, right. That's a great way of looking at it. And one more about that. Do you know how many you have? Like how many masks you have set aside for art?
Yeah. Sorry, it's so hard for me.
All right. Well, you don't have to.
No, because I am having a moment that I dreamt about one of my masks last night. It's really wild that you talk about this because I went to NFC Lisbon and it was a wonderful time. I happened to leave 2 masks that I had just made backstage, and unfortunately, when the time came for me to collect them, they were not there. And so I'm deeply missing one of them, but I dreamt about it. And so I have 2 that are out in the ether. Let them be found by whoever at NFC Lisbon is lucky enough to conjure them.
The Rock Radio team is wearing them now.
And then I have a whole bunch, and actually it was quite sweet. So at my birthday party, which was just recently in New York, where I did this whole great big performance, which was really, really fun. It was on Halloween. So I told everyone, hey, come dress iconically. And my mum came and she wore an Una mask that she had found at the house. So they're scattered about.
That's amazing. You're going to have to put one on the dogs at some point.
I know. I was thinking my dogs would kind of bite them off, but that'd be so funny. They're beautiful dogs.
For a second.
It's a great idea. Una, my bitches.
Oh my God. I'm picturing you all in masks now.
Yeah, I love it. They're quite fun. Like they do get cumbersome, but I think there's something to like fully committing to kind of this essence of the performance. And like it's so funny, right? I have two quick stories on the way that the mask is perceived. Sometimes when I meet a lot of like women, especially kind of in I don't know, like rooms that have more affluence, rooms that have wealth, appearing as I do with the mask really quickly gets kind of viewed as either must be some type of an escort or some type of a character or some type of a something that it doesn't get treated with like immediate respect or kind of like it's met with a bit of like a combative energy. So I had this recently at this wonderful event that I went to, and the first like kind of everyone was greeting me and like being really just kind of very tight and tense, and I just let it happen. I was like 20 minutes later I was on stage presenting this amazing artwork. I was like blowing people's brains away, and at the end these like kind of same women came up to me afterwards and they were like, I just think you're amazing. I think you're so smart. And it was so sweet. And then I got to like invite them into the layer of it, which is, yes, how many times have you been seen as a woman and it had nothing to do with your face? How many times were you perceived moving through the world because of your body? How many times did people talk to you the way that they thought they could or treat you the way they could because of your body and not your face, right? So it's this whole layer of social examination of how do people treat the female form when it's kind of deprived of the thing that's so me, which is my face.
I guess it's going to make people also uncomfortable because they can't get any feedback from you. So when speaking to you, like,
totally.
It's so easy. It's the amount of times that we approach people and we approach them with a smile and it's like instantly puts everyone at ease. Or, you approach someone and like they instantly know to walk away. Whatever, there's feedback there and without that. But actually when you do speak, you do look over the top quite a lot, and I think there's enough.
I also use my hands like a lot just to try and the voice is like very, hey, I'm actually here. I'm a nice person. We can laugh.
You're definitely not
actually the one thing. Yeah. And that's one thing that people say to me quite frequently when they meet me in real life. Either after having known me on Twitter, they go, "Wow, you're actually nice,"
Oh,
or "Wow, you're
God.
actually smart."
Like,
And
thank
both of those
you.
make me laugh. Yeah, but it's sweet. It just shows, right? It's just like pictures that people have, and it's about blowing those kind of like pictures, or changing or shaping those pictures, right? I've really been caught on this idea, and it's like a strange metaphor, but really been caught on this idea recently that, truth and knowledge, they're always constant points in motion, so they can never really be boxed. So I think identity follows along that line, right? People are always fluid to change, people are always fluid to grow, and creating space for identity to be seen in different ways is on a spiritual level what I'm trying to do here. keep it pretty
The little lamb.
body now.
I feel like that's a whole other podcast. That's like,
I know.
and maybe a series.
Is it lightweight fabric? I'm just curious. Or is it like
so
got
it's
weight to it?
chainmail.
Oh, it is. So it does have a little weight to it.
It has a little bit of weight to it.
Nice.
If I wear it for too long, my nose will have really nice blackheads that come in this shape.
Oh, I didn't even think
it's
about
super
that.
Cute.
You're like, and that's another bonus to wearing this out. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so onto the performance artist side of things. Like, so you decided to put on the mask, to go to events, to put yourself out there and match the energy of the space. Like, was that a conscious performance from the very beginning? You were like, right, I'm going to be this performance role, and this is going to be my art? Or was it something different?
I'd always known that Oona was going to be a performance art piece. And I should just clarify, I've been asked, but what makes it performance art and not alter egoism? We can have the whole debate of what is alter egoism and what is artist identity. The way that I see the kind of like durational performance art is made of the body, time, space, context, and duration, right? So it's space, it's context, it's responding to each environment that I'm in. It is the artist and the audience, so there's a degree of presence. And those notions are always kind of running in the back of my head, to the point that any time that I do put on this mask, for me, it's an active performance. Now, one could call that method acting and not performance art. I'm not really into the notion of method acting for this. I think it's much more artistically driven, and it definitely has the same elements of character. Now, the art that Oona makes is also performance art, although she also has to make video and photography and all these other things which every other performance artist needs to make, because you can't survive just by making performance art. And also performance art, I love it so much that I don't see a reality in which I ever break from it, because it's just such a real interaction. And any of the artifacts that come after it, those are all great to me. But there's so many moments of art that I've had just being in character in Oona, that will never make it to an exhibition text, that will never make it to a product, that will never make it to a museum. But those little moments, those to me are very artful. And I can think in particular, like when I went to NFC Lisbon the very first year, I was doing performance art where I wore this white dress. It was great open back, and I was walking around in these horse hooves, and I had a giant period stain on, just massive period stain on, and just let everyone see it. And watching kind of how different audiences responded to that was so sweet. But then after that, I have so many women write to me, "Oh my God, that gave me the best laugh. Thanks for being so brash about it. That's definitely happened to me in my fucking life." And it opens up these types of conversations, and those intimate conversations, they will never make it anywhere in the canon of art. But for me, those are just as artful. Those are like the meaning that you actually derive from art. So that's kind of like the essence of performance art versus kind of like the artifacts that I make, I guess. And I do think that performance art is inherently right for blockchain. Just as a concept, as a medium, it makes so much sense.
Can I go back to the stain for a second? Because you've done that a few times, right? Like, when I saw that, because I first saw your name, not first saw your name. I first became well aware of you on your third birthday. Like what? Like a week.
Cool.
But it was like I started seeing that more and more. And I was like, who is this? Who is this? and I was like, oh, I've seen this before because I had seen something headline before. But honestly, the stain, like, it resonates. Like, Luke, sorry, you're not gonna understand this, but going through school, like, I was literally telling my husband last night, I'm like, going through school, you get like PTSD essentially of like, who can check, who can make sure there's not anything there, and it's like, wait, most people that deal with this are having to deal with that issue as well. So seeing that as performance art, seeing it in life was like a little bit like, it made me feel, it's like, oh, you feel seen, right? Like this is part of a life that I lead where you're like, oh God, like it's here again. Like, is this going to happen? So it was one of those things where it was like, oh wow, like she's out there like doing this. She's making a like a very big statement and like easing minds, I feel like, for women and people that have periods. Like it was a very funny and moving moment all at the same time. Like it was good. It was good to see.
Sorry, I'm glad that you had that reaction, because
I didn't think I'd be talking about that today, but here we are.
Well, sometimes that piece just gets a very different reaction.
Oh,
like,
I'm sure.
Very different reaction.
I'm sure. Do people come up to you and like tell you like, hey, you have something on the back? Like, or do they realize?
Yeah. So, like, the best case of it, which I ever did, and can I indulge in like a little Una law story? So
I'm gonna say
I had this collector who, for the first like couple years of Una, I was really playing with shadow characters, and I think that I was intentionally, well, not intentional about it. I didn't really realize I was doing it, but there was something in me that was motivating me to kind of play with like, okay, what are the darker forces in this industry? How can I find them? How can I weed them out? And I wasn't afraid to kind of be combative in that way. And that meant that I was kind of attracting a lot of fucking creeps, for lack of a better word. And all of my like collectors for the first, like year and a bit, all tried to sleep with me, and then all stopped collecting my work when I told them that I wouldn't sleep with them. So introducing a character whose name I will not know, but he is no longer a part of the space. Don't worry. It was a very orchestrated takedown. He's man is a complete predator and a scammer. But anyway, he bought a piece of my artwork. And this was in New York City, right around NFT NYC. And then he was like, oh, Una, why don't you come to the Nets game with me? We'll sit courtside. Like, really trying to impress me. And so I was like, okay, let's go. So he picks me up. I remember I wore this like really tight black jacket that came all the way up to the neck, so you couldn't see anything. And then as we're walking out on courtside, and I'd never done this before, which is like really ridiculous, they make you all wait in a little room if you're going out like before the kind of national anthem. And then they open the doors and then you all walk out at once. So it's like all of these like really hoity-toity people walking out to take their like front row seats, And so they sing the national anthem. They're about to open the door. And as we're walking out, I just unzip my jacket and I go to him, would you hold my jacket for me? And he holds my jacket, and I'm just wearing that white dress with the big red period stain. And everyone in the line is like, oh my God. And he's like, done. Oh no, oh no. And I just walk right out. I sit down. And at this moment, he knows that he understands that I'm doing performance art. So kudos to him in that exact moment. He was fucking funny about it, and he was really got it. And then every time during basketball, they have all of these like timeouts and commercial breaks and all these things. They have the little like, towels. So I would pick up the towel, I would stand, and I would just and then it was like remarkable because people obviously started to notice. And this is where like, again, this is like for me the true creme de la creme of performance art, but this will never really make it into like any degree of exhibition. But basically what happens was a complete, what I now analyze as a social or like class breakdown. So during halftime, what happened is everyone starts to leave to go back to that little VIP, whatever, like drinking area. And mostly everyone, men and women, told him, hey, your girl has something on her.
Oh no.
Jazz, don't start. He doesn't like that. Like, so all of the men and all of the women from this strata of the seats of the court were telling him, hey, your girl has something on her. And then I had people running down from the 200 seat to come running all the way down to show me these photographs. Hey babe, are you all right? And then, yeah, I'm fine. this is like performance art. And then they showed me all of these photographs that they have of me standing like right by the court, and they're all the way up there, right? And so how interesting, right? So like that's just one way in which, yeah, a big tangent, but that's kind of that was one of my favorite experiences that happened with that period dress.
That's amazing. What a way to turn that situation around to an actual performance. That's so good. That's so good.
I know. I'd like to keep doing it. I'd like to have better alignment, so that way I could actually do it when I am on my natural bleeds. That would be quite nice.
That's so good.
One day.
Well,
one day.
Kudos to you for making that a thing and making it happen. All right, Luke, we can move on from period talk now.
But that's like, it's 50% of the people in the world, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
it's
So,
very,
and yeah, we
very
can't talk
true.
about it. That performance leaving, everyone will have left and gone and told someone about that, and that seems to be the thing that Una does. Like that's what happened in Paris. Like everyone was talking about Una, and it's pervasive. You know, it spreads and catches the attention of everyone. I guess that is that the point of performance art?
I don't know if that's the point of performance art, but that's certainly one of the points of Una. That's certainly one of this kind of like piercing a social network, right? And I tend to perceive these kind of like events and these things. Just imagine it's like a computer mainframe where for just like one event or one something, like everyone's like hooked up together. We're all in this kind of like system, and everyone has their own partner and role and da 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 da. And I just want to like through the whole system. And that's primarily what I try to do. And you know, I think I managed to achieve that by really playing on these like pressure points of just ideas that maybe shouldn't be melded together, or things which are really uncomfortable, but then coming from me, they're less uncomfortable, or they're even more uncomfortable. So like the first time that I really went like kind of, you know, viral with a performance, and even that word is like gives like virus energy. I don't like that word. But the first time that kind of the first time that I had a lot of eyes on my practice, and they were quick eyes, right? Like virality is like a blink. It just blink, then they're gone. They're not really useful. They're not. It's not meaningful to me. I preface with that. But it was a really interesting phenomenon, and the very first time that it happened to me,
they're like, "Tell me more."
Desi. The very first time that it happened to me, I'd gone to Art Basel Miami, and I'd done this performance with Laurie Baldwin, where basically I realized like Art Basel Miami is just so flagrant, and Miami in general, and I have spent a lot of time there. I know it very well, so I can talk as much shit about Miami as I want. It's very like vanity forward, and always every time I'd gone to Art Basel there, and I've gone for years, there was this notion of like, you see so many breasts, and they're all kind of these like photographs of breasts or portraits of breasts, or, you know, like sculptures of breasts, and they're all just like fucking perfect on these like little skinny white girls. And it was all like very, very rudimentary, and more often than not, never presented by a female artist. And if it was presented by a female artist, it was one that I think had taken the male gaze pill hardcore, right? So like I wasn't seeing anything that I thought was really kind of like for women by women, or just tittied people. And so I decided that I would go to this art fair and I would auction off a glass of my breast milk. And so I had these like big double D like breastplates made, and you know, I broke all of the social conventions very intentionally of an art fair. So one, Laurie and I were yelling. During an art fair, you're meant to be wildly quiet. So I knew that as soon as you start yelling, you're going to hit that. Everyone comes to you. There's high virality. Everyone has their phone out. I knew just immediately that if we did it in front of someone else's artwork, then it would cause chaos with the other artists, and I wanted none of that. So we chose a white wall station. And then also I scoped out the place, and I was like, oh, look, escalator, one hallway, big white wall. Perfect, because then we got so many views and everyone stops. So then we had this massive barricade of people watching the performance, but then engaging in the performance. So we started off by saying, like, why does the art world fetishize the female breast and reject it when it's attached to a living, consenting body? Then we proceeded to auction off a glass of my breast milk, which I can't even watch that performance back because it's insane. And we got 400 people there, and everyone then becomes a part of the performance. And people were shouting 20K, 30K, 40K, 70K. Obviously not real. They were just as much as the performance, right? Like, I had planted the first bidder. I said, hey, you bid 10K right away. But everyone else was fake. Everyone else was just coming in. And that notion was so much fun because then they took it on just as much as theirs. And then we had fucking security pummeling at us, but because it was 400 people, I could see them coming all the way down. So I said, hey, security's coming, let's end the performance. So we said, oh, the artist milk sells for $200,000. And then security kicked us out. And then, I don't know, hours later, we went viral on a Miami-Dade thing. And then, someone asked me, I remember I had hired a publicist, and she was like, well, we have two options. We can break this story with Paper Magazine, which will look cooler, or TMZ, which would be funnier. And I was like, well, let's go with TMZ. And so that was just wild exposure, right? Where all of Art Basel, I think I was one of the top stories from that year to come out. So that's kind of to your point about hacking the system, but very intentionally, right? And then it becomes like an onion. So people that actually wanted to peel back and understand, I'd written all of these artist essays online about why breast milk, what it meant, how I perceived that artists were being extracted from, and all of these really juicy things. So if people did want to go deeper, they could see that there was so much more than just that flash in the pan. But yeah, I definitely play with the flash in the pan moment. And if you want to come deeper, there's a whole treasure trove of shit. And if you just want to sit at the shore, then great. Well, you're already looking at Oona, so I've done my job.
So that's hacking into the arts world and hacking into the NFT space, kind of crypto world. And then there must be some people that really hate you because you're exposing certain elements of their industry or themselves that or portraying it in a way that they don't want to be portrayed. So what's the run-in with that? How can you talk about that reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. I just realized, I'm gonna try and not sound like a bitch.
Don't
I have lots of people that are really kind, that are really nice, that really share feedback with me. I take feedback on board, all of those things set aside. But if I find out that you're a fucking predator, you're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. I have no time to waste. If you're scammy, I have no time to waste. I always believe in second chances, but kind of once you cross those two lines, there's a little bit of, you need a timeout before you come back. So for instance, when I found out what Guido de Sal was doing, I've been blocked by him. That's cost me a few collectors, which is quite funny. There's a couple other artists who, I found out to be predators, and very, very carefully. One is named Threesomes. He's a guy from New York City, the basketball thing that I worked with a bunch of other female artists once we had discovered this, and we kind of coordinated to make this information public and let everyone decide what to do. That's a really funny one. And then I have a series. It's really funny. Some male artists just love to give me critique. It's just I never asked for it. And I have one in particular who I met at an NFT event, and I just it's so funny, and I'm flattered that he could think about my practice this much, but
oh my god,
it's paragraphs on what I've done, and is it really for women, and is it a fruitful tension? He's just investing so much thought into me. And I just responded back, isn't it so much fun to think about Oona so much?
You're let me show you my one unmanicured finger. Thank you very much. What?
But honestly, it's there are two kinds of problems. Mine and everyone else's. And that's just your problem. That's your problem. And so, it does elicit those kind of responses, which don't quite fall on the malice scale, right? I think it'd be really easy for me to get angry at that man or annoyed at that man. He's just kind of being a little dumb and doesn't realize. But that's okay. I'm not gonna. not going to let it bother me. I'm just going to say, yeah, mate, thanks for checking out my work. I love that you're thinking about it this much. I have another one on Instagram, just the same, like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs.
I don't know
So
how
I guess
you do
that's the most like tolerable kind of hate that I get. Everyone else just blocks me.
That's easy enough, I guess, right? You're like, all right, fine, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. They'll never see this. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, the heavy is.
Do you know, I realized that I've got this mic set up and everything, and I'm actually running it just through the Mac mic sub. It's just for show
It
today.
sounds perfect.
I'm not going to change it now because it'll make Dragon 8's job a nightmare. So
yeah, sorry about my camera just like shutting down.
Technical problems.
Yeah, it's always fun. You mentioned before about planting, I guess, the first bid. Do you practice? Because what you and Lori did was like, it seemed very spur of the moment, but like there's got to be some practicing behind it. Like, do you do it in front of a mirror, or is it just like you just go for it when you're like performance time?
Yeah, I don't really think that much of the performances can be practiced.
Okay.
Like you just have to kind of rely on that like gut, like kick into gear. And yeah, for so many of them that I've done now, there's just like there is no dress rehearsal to performance art when it's that live. Of course, like for that one, Laurie and I were in the car. I was driving there, and I was like, "Okay, what are the lines? Up as Miami, we have your attention. Why does the art world fetishize it?" And we're like practicing those lines over and over again. But there's a certain essence of it which is just like hardcore. So even this New York performance that I did, it was called "Validate Me," and I had people attach balloons, untied balloons, to my body. And the idea of kind of that behind it was like there's two types of validation, and the artist and blockchain and our bodies function on validation. So I'm going to have everyone attach these really nice bits of external validation to me, and then I'm going to shake them off and they're going to fart all over the place. There's a silly birthday performance, really sweet. Now, the very first time that I did that performance, how the fuck was I supposed to know if it was going to work? Of course, you test it out with like a couple people, but you have an audience, and there's no degree, like once I'm in performance mode, there's no degree of like, oh, stop, this is wrong, or oh, they need to hear the instructions again, or oh, this, oh, that. It's like, it's kind of, it goes to the audience, and it's deeply up to the audience. So like, I always think of it as, you know, you create a really nice framework and hopefully a sound enough structure that chaos and chance can exist, but contained.
That's awesome. That's so good. Like I can just imagine like you guys in the car just like, okay, yep, we're gonna yell this and then we're gonna just go from there. It's so good. Like I know you said you didn't want to watch that back, but I watched it and I was like, wow, this is just so well done. Like immediately get people's attention.
And as we were walking, we didn't even plan an exit. We didn't even plan how we would kind of end it. We were like, oh no. Because the very first day we'd actually done, you know, like the same thing, but at Scope. And it was like, they didn't kick us out at Scope. So then we were just like, oh, I guess we'll just walk out.
You're like, bye, everyone.
What?
When I take my milk and go.
I guess we're just leaving. And that's actually where like Brian Brinkman met me, because he was at a thing right there. So
Brian. I've known Brian for like so long. Oh, that's so good that you met him there.
I don't remember it. I was in complete like performance mode.
That's awesome.
Like sometimes these live performances where you don't know exactly how they're going to go, it's like so much on my nervous system. I realize I am partly an adrenaline junkie. I love that. I've gone skydiving many times. Like I like that like wow moment. And these performances are very much like that wow moment, and it's almost like a complete surrendering to the moment that I just have to full commit and hope that the audience catches me. And yeah, mostly everyone has every time. So I'm still banking on that luck. maybe it will run out, or maybe yeah.
That's what makes it exciting. It's like it's the unknown and the living off your wits and your ability to connect with other people and for them to do something that's interesting.
Everything's crossed.
Yeah. So what else have you been up to? Like that, those are a couple of things that you've done. You've done Look, Touch, Own, which we could talk about for hours, I'm sure. You had a recent Christie's sale, which was
Can
cool.
I ask something about was it Love, Look, Touch, Own?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
So I know it was you actually had your implants like for everybody to be able to touch, right? So this is probably a weird way of me asking this, but like I collect like fabrics, like art supplies, right? Like so I don't know what I'm gonna do with
Yeah.
them. But I mean, behind me I just have a bunch of crap that I'm like, oh, maybe one day I'll use this. So when you have your implants taken out, do you ask for them prior knowing that you want to do a performance piece, or is it like you had them and you're like, oh, you know what, I could do something with this?
Yeah, such a good question, right? Such a good question. So I had known uh, undoubtedly that I was going to do something with them. And originally I was thinking I was going to do something kind of like probably boring and dumb, like, I'll paint them in gold. Like so fucking basic. So I knew that I wanted to do something with them. And by the way, I had gotten these out before Una was even conceptualized or conceived. So I gotten these out, and I obviously, like, when you go under in surgery, they give you lots of drugs. So I don't remember like anything of the waking up. But I remember like two things very distinctly. One was I was petrified that I wasn't going to have nipples, because 1 in 1,000 women loses the nipples during this procedure. And then I also knew that like I had asked for my implants prior because I wanted to keep them, but that the surgeon had told me that they were medical waste and that they would see it depended on how well they could get the tissue off of them, if they would give them to me or not. So I kind of went in knowing, like, am I going to get my implants? Am I going to have nipples? And I woke up in this state at the end. And I just kept asking the doctor over and over and over and over again. And they were like, your implants are on your stomach. You have your implant.
You're like, that's not what they're supposed to be, but okay. No, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like I had just had them, and then my mom took me home. She took really good care of me, and she tells me that I kept just repetitiously asking, like, do I have my nipples? Do I have my implants? Like over and over and over again. And I'm very glad that I did. And the idea for kind of Look, Touch, Own didn't really click for me for quite a while. So I just let them kind of like sit there. And Look, Touch, Own, for listeners who don't know, is this performance art piece in which I invite people one by one for a duration of 60 seconds to touch my breasts, touch the implants, touch my scars. And I do it basically all over the kind of like European Western world. And it provides this cross-cultural analysis of how people interact with the female form. So for every person that comes in, I track every bit of data of where they looked, what they did, how they touched, and then I produce visual artworks based on it. So, the idea of I would just use my implants and I would just be bare and I would just let people touch, it can sound so basic. And really, once I just leaned into like, that is the artwork, like that is the performance, that's it. It just became so clear, like, I don't need to do anything to the implants. I don't need to do anything with the implants, like maybe later, once I'm like done with it, I will have like a whole bunch of implant sculptures, because they're just beautiful objects that reflect light so beautifully. But for now, it's just I kind of decided to show them in this like really vulnerable way that not a lot of people see them.
That's just awesome. Like, did you have a team there? Like, was there? Sorry, I'll let the dogs say what they need to say. Did you have a team? Because you said you were tracking where everybody touched, looked. Did you do it based on like camera reaction, or was it like people there just like actually tracking?
So different for the private and the public, which
Okay.
has made it somewhat challenging for me in terms of how to reconcile. During the private, so I did it privately in London, London, Los Angeles, and New York City. And during those, I had basically a person in the room with me shooting. So they were documenting, and then I would go back in post-production, and then I would track all of the data.
Okay, that's awesome.
So they were shooting like one shot every second, So I basically have like a stop motion of how everyone interacted. And then for Paris, where I did it publicly, I decided that even having another body in the room was also an act of kind of like meta observation. And granted, it did make, I think, the audience much nicer. In Paris, I had no camera, no other person, just me and them. But I had 2 cameras on tripods, both facing outward. So people were well aware that they were being observed and documented. And now I have this like video footage from Paris, which when I try and break it down in the same kind of ways that the rubric that I was using for the private previews, it really doesn't fit. So again, I'm at this point with this project where I go, okay, we don't know yet. We're going to put it back in the oven. It needs to cook a bit longer, or we're going to let it simmer, like my creative process goes through those, like I'm always iterating, but I do find that it is very cyclical. Sometimes the projects kind of need to hibernate and they need to dwell in themselves. So I'm letting the Paris data set dwell in itself.
That's a lot of footage to go through and have to figure all that out too.
Oh my God, for Paris, it's like 5.5 hours of footage. And some of the footage is fucking gnarly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Luke has watched like 13 minutes of the footage.
Oh no.
Yeah.
13 minutes feels like a lot, doesn't it?
Oh, that was a roller coaster. I mean, like the difference between the best encounter and the worst encounter is vast.
And so 13-minute clip, it was like that. Like people do people get weird?
Yeah. People get very weird. I've been iterating with kind of like this idea that performance art is generative art, right? And so what could be more real than my heart rate and your heart rate? And so I wanted to test out this like iteration of a concept. And so I invited Luke and one of the collector and one of my dear friends to a studio to do like a little beta test. So I cherry picked from Paris like 13 of the most kind of iconic, shall we call them, interactions that I had in Look, Touch, Own. And I had them watch them while they hooked up to heart rate monitor and then live plotted it. So
what did your heart rate do, sir?
What was that?
Like, I said, what did your heart rate do?
Because watching it back. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Did you take part in the exhibition, like the performance when you were there, Luke? Because you were there, right?
I was there. Yes. Yes, I did.
Did you take part in the actual piece, or were you just there to watch the 13 minutes?
No. Luke was there in Paris.
Oh, okay. Did you actually go in and do the whole? You did. Oh, that's awesome! I didn't realize that. I thought you were just like there for the after. Oh, that's cool.
No. Well, I met Una outside just before, and we had brief but interesting interaction. It was cool. I was trying to give you stickers, and you just completely ignored. And I was like, has she seen? And so I'm like, sticker? And you're like, and you're
I was like, are your glasses, like, can you see through your glasses?
And you're like, I don't take stickers. I'm like, oh, okay.
You made me sound like a cunt. I think I said it nicer than that, but
it was perfectly nice. It was really, really nice. And then,
I just don't like stickers.
Well,
I thought it was such a funny interaction.
Take the stickers, don't worry.
I was like, how can someone not love stickers?
Una doesn't like stickers.
Where do I put them?
Yeah,
they get crumbly. I have so many things about stickers.
Una is not about sticker life.
No, it's not sticker life for me.
That's just so funny that really, that's the interaction you remember. That's so good.
There was a lot of things, but it was really interesting watching people go in to the igloo and then come out and just the look on people's faces coming out and going in, because people were nervous going in. Some people were like, oh yeah, this is going to be like, oh, great, going to see some boobs. And then they'd come out like white as a ghost, ghost, and be like deeply uncomfortable. Like you're faced with a human being one-on-one, very intimate kind of like, what do you do? Like there's the discomfort of it is incredible. Like, and so everyone reacted in their own sort of, had their own experiences, and it was the same outside of the igloo as well. There's lots of people who didn't participate for so many different reasons, because it brought things up within them, or brought feelings of discomfort, or even the idea and talking about it would make people uncomfortable. And I thought that was just fascinating. So the next day I was like, I'm going to go and I participate, and it's going to be scary and weird. And
he's like, I'm going in a haunted house. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna see what this thing's all
so
about.
crazy though. It's like, yeah, human nature is to like, you're just like, what, you want me to do what? Like, so yeah, that
it's bizarre.
it's very interesting, I think. Like, and I hate to use that word because it sounds so bland, but it sounds very well thought out and like very well done. And also, I might be skipping ahead again. The Validate Me photo shoot that I saw, like, was incredible. Like, do you come up with those ideas? Like, how does that all come together?
Yeah, so obviously there's a real correlation for me between Look, Touch, Own and Validate Me. And one that like you just can't flush out over the timeline. But basically, yeah, Look, Touch, Own is all about the breasts, right? And part of the performance is also about kind of consent and control, and how people do treat the female form. So for my birthday, I was like, well, I didn't want to do something fucking heavy. I need a break. I need something silly. I want something fun. I want something light. And I really just want to kind of like hone in on a couple other methodologies that I'm currently working on. So I think for every artist, especially for me, there's times in which, you know, things are deeply conceptual. And then there's times in which things are iterative and quick fire. Hey, we're working with tech, we're working with performance, or we're working with kind of like getting this new kind of like positioning there, right? So not everything is a pièce de resistance, you know. We can have some fun ones. Exactly, crazy. Who'd have thunk it? So I started to train my own AI model on the images of Una, the Virgin Mary, and Saint Agatha. And Saint Agatha is this kind of like she's a martyred saint, but basically her story is that this Roman guy tried to fuck her, she said no, and then he chopped off her tits. And
yeah, we go there.
And so she's pictured in all of these things with like bleeding breast or with her breast on a platter, and she is the patron saint of sexual assault. She is the patron saint of breast. She's the patron saint of breast cancer. So for me, there was that kind of like through line. And then I found this church and I was like, oh, great. We're going to do the prayer card release. That imagery, that series is going to come out in a church, and we're going to do it on Una's birthday. And instead of having a process of communion where people kind of are given something, people are going to give to me. And so I did this whole kind of like, you know, written essay on the ways in which we're creating kind of technology in our own image. And so blockchain relies on validation, right? Validators, that's how the whole thing works. So what does that say to the artist? What does that say to the psyche? Well, my system relies on internal validation, like a breath, and external validation, community, conversation. So I had the funny idea of let's have everyone blow up balloons, attach them to my body, and then I'll just fart all over the place. So there's maybe like 75 people that came up and did the whole communion, you know. So we did a prayer, you know, I had someone give a homily, then, you know, everyone rose and they blew up their balloons, and then one by one they came and attached them to my body, and then they could go get the breast of Una, which was birthday cake, or the piss of Una, which was champagne. And then they would go back to their seats. So it wasn't, yeah, it's really, really great photography from that performance. And I'm just like so happy with how that came out, and really nice to, you know, for me as the artist, have a very counter experience. Again, this is the first time since Look, Touch, Own that I've let so many people touch my physical body, and have it be like really sweet and really fun and, you know, happy. It's a nice, you know, it's a nice
antidote.
Change. So, yeah, it's a nice antidote. It's a nice antidote.
For people looking
and I think it's also
white
fun
as a ghost, according to Luke, to like actually happy times. Who would have thought?
Yeah, to laughing, to giggling. And I'm stepping a bit more into just like currently in this moment, just a bit more play. So really focusing on kind of nailing more kind of technical sides while it's a bit more playful, and then bringing the tech into some of the heavier concepts. So having that fluidity. And I will say that's what I like love about the NFT space. That's what I love about Web3 is that like collectors are really willing, you know, and audiences are really willing to kind of move with you. Like I've never met anyone in this industry who's tried to like box me into like one little thing. Everyone who seems to understand, you know, understands kind of how iterative it is, and has been really gracious with me.
Yeah, they're not like igloo only. Just stay in the igloo.
Yeah, heavy dark igloo only. Backhand this bitch. Me scared.
So what have you got coming up next?
Ooh.
Right to the point.
I know, I've got one that's called Moo Milk Martha. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to Art Blocks, which is amazing. I love the work that Snowfro does. I love the work that the Art Blocks team does. The kind of art movement that has been in Martha and that continues to grow in Martha is really exciting to me. So I'm going to Martha to do a bit of what we've already spoken about, actually, but in a much more jovial way. So imagine the igloo, except this time I've got a see-through tent dome, and I'm inviting people in groups for these very silly performances in which everyone is hooked up to a heart rate monitor, and then their heart rates get physically plotted and generated as an NFT afterwards. So I'm not going to say what they do, but there is a mooing, there is a milking, and there is a skinning. And audiences can choose their own adventure. But the idea is that they're all amusing performances.
Oh, well done.
It's going to just utterly fantastic. I'm just going to keep milking it for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Keep them going.
You are in your punny phase.
Yeah, I'm in my punny phase. And really for me, this, I think people go to Art Blocks weekend in Martha because they like the tech and because they like the community. So I'm trying to do something which is really, it's team-based. You're playing in games, you're playing with other people. It's slightly competitive. It's really funny. It's not serious at all. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way to what I'm doing, but this is much more focused on, for me personally, and for me in terms of like the UNA lineage, this is about nailing down the tech. This is about getting that iterative process, tracking someone's heart rate as a methodology of performance art and integrating that with blockchain kind of all instantaneously. That's that's a thing. So I want to iterate that and make sure that that tech is kind of there, and then eventually I will take that kind of method and approach it to kind of look, touch, own. I hope.
There's so many moving parts and pieces. Moving parts and pieces,
I
should I
know.
say?
Oh.
That's so good though. Like
moving.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I caught myself there. I think this is why this is going so well. I'm like, I can pick up on that stuff.
Dare I say that you've got it down?
No, that's so cool that you're doing it with Art Blocks. So Art Blocks is one of probably one of my first, but like one of my bigger first purchases was from Art Blocks, like back in the day. I mean, so that's so cool.
It would be perfect. Have you seen what they're doing with embroidery?
No.
Oh, you have to check that out, Hueviews. They're doing kind of generative embroidery.
Okay.
And I think it might even be with Glitch Martha. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're doing cool things.
All right, yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
They have the engine, which is kind of where I'm releasing this. So It's like been really easy to work with them. Highly recommend.
I'm very excited for you. Like, that's very, very cool. Like, to be able to kind of bring one piece into like the next, essentially, like moving them
little
together.
Puzzle pieces.
Yeah,
little puzzle pieces.
Yeah. I also, as a Floridian, I saw one of your latest tweets, and I want to say thank you because you have so graciously said that you were going to be doing essentially grants for people that may need abortions because of the laws that just passed in Florida. And I just want to, like, that in and of itself is a big statement for you to make. So I just think that's, I just want to say thank you for like the people that will possibly need it, because that's very kind and generous. So
I appreciate that, but I won't take it.
No, okay, fine. All right, fine. But no, like I wasn't necessarily expecting to see that, on your timeline, and I was like, but it also goes with the UNA like essence of like women's and that kind of stuff. So
Florida is very personal to me for many reasons, and that topic, abortion, women's healthcare, very personal to me for many reasons.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed with the results. I also think it's fucking bullshit that there needed to be
60%,
but there needed to be 60%. Anyway, we're getting into the weeds a bit.
Sorry,
the intention.
I didn't want to bring it up, but
no. The intention behind that is that this is what crypto is for. This is how we move money when there is a regime that attached to your physical body. Crypto is supranational, and it should be supranational. And I said this in the tweet, but crypto is truly for the rebellious few that like don't want their wallets, don't want their bodies, don't want their brains, don't want their creativity owned or regulated by any fucking middlemen. And you know what's really amazing is from that tweet, I've got, and I don't want to spoil it because it's still in the works. We have a call tomorrow, but I've got several people that have messaged me, hey, where's a wallet address? Hey, we want to help.
That's amazing.
So we're looking into starting kind of something proper and getting this like really, really there so we can actually just use crypto to grassroots pay and give women grants to take the time, the transportation, and stay in a nice fucking hotel. You know what I mean? Like none of this bullshit of like you're gonna go do a medical procedure and then get on a plane that same day. It's like, no, bitch, kick your feet up, sit down, relax, have some cake. You know?
Yeah, you've been through a traumatic experience. Take some time.
Yeah, like and it's so nice to see that there are so many people that have messaged me and responded so positively to that, because that's such a counter narrative to what we're seeing as a dominant crypto narrative right now. And I actually think that there are lots of people like me, like you, like Luke, who just like this technology for the sovereignty that it can enable. And great, let's do it. That's why we like it. I'm going to use it to do that. So
no, that's awesome.
I'm going to fund abortions for 2025. Get at me, Florida.
I don't mean to laugh at that, God. But it's just like putting it out there like that does make me laugh.
It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I bet you never
the fact that it has to be like that, right?
Yeah, something you put on your resume.
All right, sorry, I'm just crawling through my notes.
I actually think on that note, there's like one really cool, and this is what I'd love to figure out, so I'm putting out the ether. Zero knowledge proof, ZKP. That's a way I think we can integrate that in this, in terms of making sure that the funds are going to the right places, but no one needs to know where they're going. In terms of making sure that, you know, and that's another way in which crypto can be used to add legitimacy to grassroots peer-to-peer transactions. So I don't actually need to know what did you spend those like $20 on, but I can verify, yes, you spent those $20 on the things that we said that you would.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's a direct trail to everyone who's gone and had something done, isn't it? Right? Just follow the address.
Exactly. It's a way of kind of protecting, and I think that there's a really like, I'm eager for the tech. Come on, some tech boys. Come give me some ZKP, baby.
Also, I go to a lot of art museums, and so it's, since looking at all of your work, realizing how much, like, just yesterday I went to an exhibit. It was a punk exhibit, and it had essentially a warning, right, for small children, like, heads up, like, this has some mature stuff. But it's like, you go see the Renaissance art, there's naked women, like, no matter what. And it's like, this is like, oh wait, we can modernize in it and it's still okay. Like, it's a body. The majority of us have body parts. Like, we show our arms, like, it's okay. So that's also like, I know you probably won't take it, but I want to thank you for like for doing that and like being such a spokeswoman, and that, like, for the gender side of it. Like, that's so, it's so good, and I have a whole new respect for that. So like, just whether it's performance art or just like living your life, like, I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. I've always found it silly that we should be treated differently just because I have more fat around my nipples.
yeah, right. You're like, oh, sorry about that. No, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's crazy. It is really. Every time I see a guy with a shirt like walking around my neighborhood, I'm like, yeah, can't do that. Nobody, like, we can't do this.
No. Just because of a little bit of fat, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I thank you. That means a lot. And I think it's something that we all build together, and I'm really happy that I somehow lack the part of my brain that should ever feel like ashamed. So I just do shit.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you lack it, because I am like, it's so embarrassing. So yeah, no, I appreciate you. I don't think it's lacking. I think you just no fucks given, and that's okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Even subconsciously.
Yeah, see? You're like, go in. You're like, I want them all done except for my middle ones. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. I'm very aware of time because we've run over a little bit, but this has been so good. Thank you for coming and joining us, Una, and thank you, Hueviews, for coming and being a big part of that. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I thank you for having me. It was very great to like not put a face to a name, but put you to, you know, who you are, and it's been great to get to know you on that level.
Same. Yeah. Thank you so much for the thoughtful questions, and thank you for taking the time to like look into my practice. And Luke, thank you for this, but thank you for everything.
Yeah, you guys have a history.
Yeah. I was trying to make a cow joke. I'm trying to make a cow joke in my head.
You guys are just moving right along to greener pastures. I got nothing. That's all I got.
Ooh, greener pastures.
See, there you go.
Yeah, it's I got one. ChatGPT just gave me one. But yeah, you just can't beef with this type of perfection.
Well done. And I think you should end it right there, Luke. That's the title. You can't beef with this type of perfection.
It's like deja vu. We keep trying to end, but I just keep running out with power puns. The podcast goes on infinitely. Anyway, thank you.
No, yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for answering all my probably weird questions, but I appreciate it.
Me too. Awesome.
I loved it.
Well, let us know how it goes at Marfa. Like, we'll be following, and anyone who's listening to this who's going to Marfa, go and check that out, because I know some of the details, and they're going to be amazing.
Photos! I can't wait to see it. A little spoiler, cool. Luke over there.
All right, cheers, guys.
Bye, bye, everyone.
If you stay on for a second, I will stop recording.
Moo.
Goodbye.